Hi, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this bracelet right here. This bracelet is my own original design and it is called the Climbing Tire Track Bracelet. Now this bracelet does look very similar to other bracelets that other people have created, but this one is different if you look at the different designs up close. This design is more flat and it's pretty much the same thing when you flip it over on both sides, like this. So that's pretty much what makes this design unique. Now anyway, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what you're going to need. To make this bracelet, you're going to need your loom, and this tutorial is going to be for the monster tail loom. I do have a tutorial on how to make this bracelet on looms such as a rainbow loom, or crazy loom, or wonder loom. Any loom like that. I do have a tutorial on how to make the bracelet on one of those looms, and the link to that video will be in the description. You will also need your hook. Any hook will work, and as you can see here, I am using my rainbow loom plastic hook, or in other words, just a regular rainbow loom hook. You will also need a clip. Any clip will work as well, as long as it is for rubber band bracelets, and I'm going to be using an S-clip. And not only will you need those things there, but you will also need rubber bands. As you can see here, I have 4 different groups of rubber bands, and each group is just a different color that you will use on your bracelet. Now, here on this organizer, I have organized the rubber bands so that the A rubber bands and the C rubber bands will be on the left side of the bracelet, and the B rubber bands and the D rubber bands are going to be on the right side of the bracelet. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you how many rubber bands you will need, and to figure this out you might want to get a calculator, but this is pretty easy math. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. To figure out how many rubber bands you will need to multiply the number of rubber bands you need to make a single chain bracelet for yourself or for whoever you're making this bracelet for. And I need 25 rubber bands. Then you will multiply this number by 2. And then you will add 18 to that number. And that is the total number of rubber bands you will need. Now, to figure out how many rubber bands of each color that you will need, you will divide this number here by 4. And the answer you get from that is how many of each color rubber band you will need. So I'm going to need 17 of each color. So, anyway, now that you know what you will need, get your supplies, and use the pause button so that you can do so. And yeah, so get your supplies, and I will see you once you have gotten everything. Alright, now to begin making this bracelet, you're going to need to have the red dot on your loom on the left. About to say the right, but you need the red dot on the left. And we're going to be using these 4 pins here. So we're going to be using these 2 middle pins, the bottom left pin, and the top right pin. So these 4 pins here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, before we begin placing rubber bands, have your hook nearby because we are going to be using it shortly after we begin placing rubber bands. Alright, to begin actually placing rubber bands, you're going to need to get 1 A color rubber band, and you're going to stretch it going across the top and bottom middle pins, and when you do that, make sure you twist this A color rubber band into an H shape like this. Now, because we are going to be using the bottom left pin and the top right pin, you're going to need to extend this 8 here that you create by twisting this rubber band outwards to those pins as well. And to do this, you're going to need to get your hook, and you're going to need to slide your hook into one of the triangles. So if you grab the bottom triangle, what you're going to do is you're going to bring it outwards to this bottom left pin, because that is the other pin we're going to be using on this bottom row. And the top triangle will be extended outwards to this top right pin, because we're going to be using this pin as well. So now this 8 should be stretching across these two middle pins, the bottom left pin and the top right pin. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our first B color rubber band, and the B color rubber band is going to be on the right side of the bracelet. So you're going to place this B color rubber band going across these two middle pins, and you're going to extend it so that it goes across the top right pin, the top middle pin, and the bottom middle pin. And you get something like this on your loom. Now you're going to get a C color rubber band, and you're going to place it going across these two middle pins as well. But now you're going to stretch it going outwards to this bottom left pin, because this rubber band is going to be on the left side of the bracelet. So you should have something like this on your loom now. Now you're going to get your hook, and what you're going to do is you're going to loom this bottom A color rubber band on all 4 pins. And to do this, you're just going to get your hook and grab this A color rubber band and pull it over the pins it is on and onto these B rubber bands and this C rubber band. And make sure you do this on all 4 pins. And of course, in order to get this rubber band here on these 2 pins, you'll need to turn your loom around so that the red dot is on the right, and then you can loom this rubber band here more easily. And once you loom this cap band, make sure you turn your monster tail loom back around so that the red dot is back on the left. Now what we're going to do is, before we place any more rubber bands, as you can see here, this rubber band, this B rubber band, is underneath of this C rubber band. And what you're going to do is, on these 2 middle pins, is you're going to grab the B color rubber band and pull it over the pins and onto the C color rubber band above it. And you'll do this on both pins. So make sure you turn your loom around to do that. And once you have finished looming this B color rubber band, make sure you turn your loom back around so that the red dot is back on the left. Now what you're going to do, because you have loomed this B color rubber band, you'll need to get a D color rubber band, and you'll need to place it going across these 2 middle pins and this top right pin here. So you should get this shape on your loom now. And what you're going to do is you're going to get your hook once again, and you're going to loom all of the rubber bands that are underneath of this D color rubber band. And also this D rubber band should be stretching across these 2 middle pins and this top right pin, if I did not specify that before. Well, anyway, you're going to get your hook once again, and now what you're going to do is loom all of the rubber bands underneath of this D color rubber band. And to do this, you're just going to grab them with your hook and pull the rubber bands over the pins they are on and onto this rubber band above them. And of course, to get these two rubber bands, you'll need to turn your loom around. But make sure once you have finished looming all of the rubber bands underneath this D rubber band, you're going to need to make sure that the red dot is back on the left. Now, as you can see here, there is no longer any rubber bands coming from the left that are on these two middle pins. So that means we now need to place an A color rubber band. And the A color rubber band stretches from these two middle pins outwards to this bottom left pin. And once you place this A color rubber band, you're going to need to loom all of the rubber bands below it. And to do this, you're just going to grab the rubber band underneath of this A color rubber band and pull it over the pin it is on and onto this rubber band above it. And you will do this on all 3 pins. And of course, to get this rubber band up here, you'll need to turn your loom around. And once you have finished looming all of the rubber bands underneath of this A color rubber band, the red dot needs to be back on the left side. Now, once you have gotten here, there is now a pattern that you follow so that you can continue making this bracelet until you run out of rubber bands. If you got the correct number you will need at the beginning. And I am going to go ahead and explain what that pattern is. So, when you have a rubber band coming from the left, you need to place another rubber band that will be on these right pins, and then you will loom all of the rubber bands below it. Then, you won't have a rubber band coming from the left anymore. You'll have a rubber band on these 2 pins that's coming from the right. So you'll need to place another rubber band on the left and loom all of the rubber bands below it. And then the pattern repeats. And it's a lot easier to explain the pattern while I am showing you what the pattern is, rather than just telling you. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you. So as you can see here, on these 2 middle pins, this rubber band is coming from the left. So I need to place another rubber band that's on these 2 pins coming from the right. And because this rubber band here is an A color rubber band, I will need to get a B color rubber band. And this B color rubber band will be going across these 2 middle pins and outwards to this top right pin. Then what you will do is you'll get your hook and you'll loom all of the rubber bands below it. And to do that, you're just going to get your hook and pull the rubber bands below it, below this B color rubber band, over the pins they are on, and onto this B color rubber band. And of course, to get these 2 rubber bands up here, you'll need to turn your loom around and just loom the rubber bands here as well. And make sure you get all the rubber bands on all 3 pins. Now once you have loomed all of the bottom rubber bands, you'll need to make sure that the red dot on your loom is back on the left. Now as you can see here, now that there is a rubber band on these 2 middle pins coming from the right, you will need to place another rubber band coming from the left. And because this rubber band on these 2 middle pins is a B color rubber band, you will need to get a C color rubber band. And this C color rubber band will be going across these 2 middle pins and this bottom left pin over here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get your hook and you're going to loom all of the rubber bands below the C color rubber band onto it. And to do this, you're just going to get the rubber band on your hook and pull it over the pins it is on and onto this rubber band above it. And to get this rubber band up here, you'll need to turn your loom around, of course, and then you can loom it. But once you have loomed all of the rubber bands underneath of the C color rubber band, you'll need to turn your loom back around so that the red dot is on the left. And now I have gone through this pattern again, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you and explain this pattern probably 2 more times, and then I'm going to leave you to go ahead and continue making this bracelet on your own. Alright, now to continue making this bracelet, as you can see here on these 2 middle pins, there is a rubber band coming inwards from the left. So now what I need to do is I need to place a rubber band coming from the right. And because this rubber band here is a C color rubber band, you'll need to get a D color rubber band now, and you'll place it going across these 2 middle pins and outwards to this top right pin. So like this. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get your hook and you're going to loom the bottom rubber bands, or all the rubber bands, underneath of this D color rubber band. And of course, to get these 2 rubber bands up here, you'll need to turn your loom around. And you'll just loom these 2 rubber bands. And once you have loomed all of the rubber bands underneath of this D rubber band here, you'll need to make sure that the red dot is back on the left. Now, on these 2 middle pins, I have a rubber band coming in from the right, so now I need to place a rubber band that will be coming in from the left. And because this rubber band here is a D rubber band, I need to place an A color rubber band. And the A color rubber band will be stretching across these 2 middle pins and outwards to this bottom left pin. Now, like you've been doing previously, you're going to now loom all of the rubber bands underneath of this A color rubber band. And to get this rubber band up here on this top pin, you'll need to turn your loom around so you can loom it. Then. And once you have loomed all of the rubber bands underneath of this A rubber band, you'll need to make sure that the red dot is back on the left. Alright, so now I've went through this pattern once again. I'm going to go through the little cycle here one more time, and then I'm going to leave you to continue making this bracelet on your own. So anyway, now that I have this rubber band here on these 2 middle pins coming from the left, I need to place another rubber band that will be coming from the right. And because this rubber band here on the left is an A color rubber band, I need to place a B color rubber band. And the B color rubber band will be stretching across these 2 middle pins and also outwards to this top right pin. Now, once you have placed this B color rubber band, you'll need to loom all of the rubber bands underneath of it. And to do this, and to loom these 2 rubber bands up here, you'll need to turn your loom around and then loom them like this. And once you have loomed all of the rubber bands underneath of this B color rubber band, you'll need to make sure that the red dot is back on the left. And then, as you can see here, there is now a rubber band on these two middle pins coming from the right. So now I need to place another rubber band coming from the left now. And because this rubber band right here is a B color rubber band, you'll need to place a C color rubber band coming from the left. And to do this, you're going to stretch this rubber band, you'll need to stretch this C color rubber band going across these two middle pins and outwards to this bottom left pin. Once you have placed this rubber band, you'll need to get your hook, and what you're going to do is you're going to loom all of the rubber bands underneath of this C color rubber band. And to get this rubber band on this top pin here, you'll need to turn your loom around so that you can get it. And there. And once you have loomed all of the rubber bands underneath of this C color rubber band, you'll need to turn your loom back around so that the red dot is back on the left. And now I have gone through this pattern plenty times, and the 2 times I said I would. And as you can see here, my bracelet is already starting to form, and your bracelet should be doing that as well. And as you can see, it looks like a little bit of a mess up here, but when you pull it by the cap band, you can see the design. So anyway, now that I have gone through this pattern the 2 times I said I would, now I'm going to leave you to continue making this bracelet on your own. And all you're going to do is you're just going to continue this same pattern over and over until you have made this bracelet either long enough to fit around your wrist or until you run out of rubber bands. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just cut the video here. I am not going to be fast forwarding in this tutorial. And yeah, so use the pause button if you need to, and I will see you once you have finished making your bracelet. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and just show you me placing the last few rubber bands. I'm just kind of giving you a chance to pause the video. I'm just going to go ahead and just place the last rubber band I have of each color. And then I'm going to show you how to put a clip on your bracelet and take your bracelet off of your loom. Alright, so now as you can see here, I have finished placing and looming all of the rubber bands that I possibly can. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take this bracelet off of your loom. To do this step, you're going to need to get one more A color rubber band. So as you can see here, I have one more A color rubber band. And before we use this last A color rubber band, we're going to need to get all of these rubber bands here onto 2 pins. And we're going to get them all onto these 2 middle pins. Now to do this, we're going to start with these 2 bottom pins. What you're going to do is you're going to grab the rubber band on this bottom left pin with your hook and bring it over to this bottom middle pin, like this. Now, to get these top pins, you'll need to turn your loom around to make this easier. And now what you're going to do is you're going to grab this rubber band on this left pin and bring it over to the other end of this rubber band on this middle pin as well. And now what you'll need to do is you'll need to turn your loom back around so that the red dot is on the right, or on the left. Now you're going to get this 8-color rubber band and you're going to stretch it going across these 2 middle pins with all of these rubber bands on them. And you're just going to go ahead and loom the bottom 2 rubber bands on both middle pins, like this, and onto this 8-color rubber band above them. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get your hook once again, and also make sure that the red dot is back on the left. Now you're going to grab one end of this 8-color rubber band with your hook, and you're going to bring it over to the other end on the other middle pin, like this, and now you should have something like this on your loom. Now you're going to want to get your clip, whatever clip you were using, and put it to the side because you are going to need it in a moment. Now you're still going to need your hook, and what you're going to do with this 8-color rubber band now is you're going to slide your hook into this middle pin and stretch this rubber band out to another pin next to this middle pin on your loom, like this. And now what you can do is you can get your clip and slide your clip onto this 8-color rubber band. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a few extra seconds. And now what you're going to do is once you have your clip on this rubber band, is you're going to pull this rubber band off the pins and off of your loom. And now your clip should be on one end of your bracelet. Now you're going to get your clip onto the other end of your bracelet, or in other words, your cap band. And to do this, you're going to need to get your loom again, and you're just going to stretch this cap band going across any 2 pins on the loom, like this. Now you're going to get your clip on the other end of your bracelet, and you're going to slide it onto this cap band that is now stretched out going across these 2 pins. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a few extra seconds. Alright, and once you have your clip onto this cap band, you can pull your cap band off of the pins and off of your loom, and now your clip should be attached to both ends of your bracelet. So once this is true for you, you can go ahead and put your bracelet on, and bam! So as you can see here, I am now wearing my bracelet, and the lighting is a little so I'm just going to go ahead and take my bracelet off. But hopefully you have your bracelet now, and you are wearing your bracelet and enjoying your bracelet and all that. So now it's time for the outro. So I would like to thank you for watching this tutorial, and hopefully you were able to make this bracelet successfully, because, well, if you weren't able to, then I do have another tutorial, and that tutorial is actually one of my best tutorials that I've ever recorded, except it's just the beginning is very long and it takes me 6 minutes to tell you what you're going to need and all that. But I do have another tutorial if this one was not very understandable for you, but it is on the rainbow loom, so it will be a little difficult to follow the instructions if you're going to be using a monster tail loom. But anyway, thank you for watching, And hopefully you have your bracelet right now and you're enjoying your bracelet and you're wearing your bracelet. And yeah. And that's pretty much it and all I have to say. So, bye!